नागालैंड के इन गुटों के साथ जो कभी हिंसा में विश्वास करते थे, उनसे जो बातचीत चल रही थी वो सफलतापूर्वक आगे बढ़ी।
Before India celebrated her Independence Day, several sections, several communities of the Naga society did so on the 14th of August. One among them, the most powerful, the largest of organizations, the NSCN-IM, signed with the government of India in early August what is being called a historic framework agreement to end India's oldest insurgency. India Today traveled to the Naga heartland to tell you the story of yesterday, today, and how tomorrow may look like. Take a look at this report.
In New Delhi, big words and bonhomie over a framework, the details of which remain shrouded in secrecy. In Nagaland, a practice which few beyond the state can accept. A day before India celebrated her Independence Day, the NSCN-IM and sections of the Naga society came together to celebrate an annual practice for 69 years, what they believe to be their day of freedom from the colonial rule and break from India. We reached the group's base, Camp Hebron, to witness the celebration and saw firsthand the challenges that have surfaced beyond the photo op in 7 Racecourse Road on the 3rd of August. It was an important day. After all, T.H. Muiva, their Ato Kilonsna, or Prime Minister in command of the society's largest, most powerful insurgent group, was to talk to them of a new promise. Something they have been waiting to hear since the guns fell silent and ceasefire between the government and the insurgent group was declared on July the 24th in 1997. This song in the Nagamese language portrays Muiva and his senior aide Isaac Su as victors who returned home following a mission. It pretty much sums up how the organization wants to showcase the 3rd of August Framework Agreement.
The Indians have realized it was not possible to suppress the Nagas. It has to be solved through political means. This kind of agreement would provide for enduring, inclusive, new relationship of peaceful coexistence of the two entities. Thank you so much.
Once he was done, voices from the civil society groups, as also Nagas living beyond Nagaland, from Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur, and even Myanmar, took to the stage and made themselves heard.
As Naga by blood, all of our people living in Mayaba strongly urge collective leadership and our Naga brothers living in India side of the apparent boundary not to leave us alone.
Hours ago, not far away from Camp Hebron, a delegation of All Naga Students Association of Manipur, having driven nearly 10 hours to participate, saying what many of them believe is a reasonable argument.
The youth of today doesn't want his younger brother or his younger generation to suffer like he is suffering today. It's all because of the boundary. Without framing, without throwing, clear boundary, how can they bring settlement?
So there should be a redrawing of the boundary, you feel?
Sure.
But it is hardly the case that the centre did not always listen. It tried to listen and act when it was stopped in its tracks by scenes like these. Men, women and the young taking to the streets, charring what else but the very symbols of state power when ceasefire with Muiva's group was extended from Nagaland to all Naga inhabited areas of the northeast. A move many in states like Manipur, Assam and Arunachal Pradesh, where there exists significant Naga population, saw as a precursor to redrawing of maps and then being asked to cede territory to Nagaland. Sensing a brewing discontent and the impact of what was left unsaid, Muiva took to the stage again.
I forgot to mention one or 2 points. Well, people have been informed by some people with vested interest that we have given up the issue of integration and sovereignty.
Politics aside, there were first-timers like Dr. Rachunliu Kamai, a PhD holder with a London-based Natural History Museum, for whom this framework agreement presented an opportunity which was not to be wasted.
I wish for that day where the Naga youngsters can concentrate on excelling in our respective studies and respective professions.
Minutes after announcing the completion, Muiva's men invited others from civil society and got into a huddle behind closed doors. Obviously, there are things to withhold from public scrutiny, and Delhi isn't the only one doing so.
Seldom have the Naga Independence Day celebrations attracted as much attention as they have today. Obviously, it's on account of the framework agreement that is now in place. But what we saw on the stage, the contradictions, the deliberations, the pulls, the pushes and the sentiment all around told us that while it was easy to make the distance between Camp Hebron and 7 Racecourse Road, residence of the Prime Minister, the political distance will not be as easy. In fact, it will take much more than time and some tough walking.
So just who are the Nagas and how did their resentment with the British and subsequently the government of India take the form of India's oldest insurgency? Not much is known of their past, but history records Nagas as a conglomerate of nearly 16 distinct tribes that lived in isolation and shared a set of physical and cultural traits. In the early 1900s, British administrator in their erstwhile Naga hills, James Philip Mills, recorded their presence in an area measuring 1 lakh square kilometre lying between India's northeast and Myanmar's northwest. However, British administrative decisions followed by those made by India created newer territories, further dividing the Nagas, the result of which is the situation at hand. The East India Company's expedition in 1840 is the first such recorded instance, and it resulted in absolute mayhem. While the intrusions were marked by burning of villages, the response came in the form of devastating headhunting raids, which led to the temporary policy of non-intervention on the part of the colonizers. While efforts were made subsequently and the Naga Hills made a district in British India in 1874, for all practical purposes, most of the region remained unadministered. However, 60 years later, here in the words of the Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces in the Second World War lies the tribute to Naga bravery, which was by no small measure responsible in pushing the Japanese back from Kohima. Gallant actions in aid of British India aside, many in the Naga society did not seek a joint future with India.
Long before British or anybody found us, we have lived very independent on our own. Each Naga village was independent on its own, and people say we live like the ancient Greek city-states. And so we, to a large extent, we do not really blame the government of India for our situation. That's why I say that in a way we have a sense of sorry, let us say sorry.
As these dates show, the nearly 60-year conflict, which technically began a day before India attained independence, has meandered through, as some would say, aimlessly. However, the declaration on August the 3rd has reinvigorated the desire for peace. But questions remain over the form it will take when it finally comes, assuming it does.
If you felt that Camp Hebron was a sign of defiance against the Indian Union, be aware that it isn't even a shadow against what Konoma used to be back in the heydays when the first sign of revolt was raised against the British and the Indian armies. Villagers from here who now have given up their guns for pens raised a very valid question which is being asked even outside. Has the government of India made a mistake by engaging a group which is being led by a Tangkul Naga who does not belong to Nagaland but is from Manipur instead?
They say those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. When it comes to Nagaland, Konoma is where history has a lot to offer. The hometown of Angami Zapu Bizu, a man who fought the British along with Subhash Chandra Bose's Indian National Army in the Second World War. A man who fought for independence of the Naga nation from India. A man who formed the Naga National Council, the mother organization from which emerged groups like the NSCN, among others. The armed struggle for those in Konoma, a village which its people say was burnt over and over in the course of conflict, is now history. But the sentiment for a Naga nation and the defiance of India's might is not. For the young in Konoma today, the village is a place to preserve its environment, to conserve and to get as many to see it, but with care. However, that does not and cannot mean a break from the past.
As the revolutionary started from this village, we still believe in those aims and objectives for a sovereign state. So, regarding the accord, if we represent Konoma people, the place where it started, if it's not for our aims and objectives of what we have started, and if the accord or whatever they signed or whatever not, if the person doesn't know where it was done, then I think it can be into a different coin again.
That the talks are taking place only with the NSCN too seems to be a sticking point with many, be it the generation that wants to move on or the generation that has seen it all.
The main reason why people are not, the Nagas from Nagaland, they are not interested is that nobody is actively, involved in that anymore. Yeah, so they are more about, not they, and like us from this village, we still hold on to the thought of where we started from. Yeah.
The sovereignty.
Yeah, that's the main thing. Yeah. You see, during those days, on the 14th of August, everything used to be closed. All the shops used to be closed, and then a little bit of conflict is there.
Yeah.
So 14, 15 of it, but now you see, on the 14th, the market is open.
It seems she was
jailed. Manipur Impal Moeva Partu, Moses India Memuna Gaminian Donos ceasefire video.
It would be incorrect to assume that this pessimism is restricted to Konoma. Tinoseli Keho, now retired, is a self-styled general of the Naga army. Not only did he lead his men as their commander to China for help in the early days of the conflict, but also had visited East Pakistan to train. A respected elder among the Nagas, he's also among those who have known and seen Muiva as a young activist who rose through the ranks.
Why they are keeping secret? And why before agreement was signed, why that they console us? Only after signing the agreement, only to console, that is only a kind of humiliation again. This, some kind of suspicion has been created.
Are we to assume that the NSCN-IM is the representative, the only representative for all Nagas?
No. They represent only their organization, as I have said. They are not speaking for the Nagas, but for the NSCN-IM organization.
Division in their midst is hardly new to the Nagas. What is also not new is the conflict and the wheel of history turning over and over again.
From Camp Hebron to Konama to the minds of the young in Nagaland, for a place burdened with creaking, if at all, present infrastructure, the young here are restless, they want growth, they want change, and thus they want peace, thereby making the need to cater to their situation perhaps the strongest.
When the night has come and the land.
An environment free of violence and a level playing field. Like the young elsewhere, those in India's 16th state too have simple desires. Desires which remain stifled, resulting in a society which has only now begun looking beyond government jobs.
Stand by me.
Difference between the present generation and the past generation is that we're still very, our hearts and our minds are still very closely associated with the cause for which people have died. But now the present generation who have not seen that part of the conflict have lived in a situation where they can, for them just to do what they want to do is much more important than the actual cause for which the people have suffered.
The lament may swiftly be forgotten as investment jobs are there to be taken. These figures paint a clear sign that the young have a future, provided peace can prevail. In its absence too, there are those who have not stopped. They dream of a freer society.
We should have the freedom to live and freedom to say whatever we want. If it has to happen, it should happen now. That's what I would say.
There's a lot to explore. We need to change our mindset also in this kind of issue.
To study science and then crack all the exams, possible exams, and I wish to become an IAS officer.
They dream, but history has in it a warning, the need to handle with care.
NSC leaders say that no, that we should not reduce the armed organization. But these youth movement leaders, they saw that our people were beaten, our women were raped. They cannot remain silently.
Enough and more people have died in this 60-year-old conflict, so much so that there is not a count of just how many perished in all these years. However, enough and more instances exist in history to tell you that when peace is attempted in a hurried format without broad-based ground consultations, it is the conflict and not the society that has survived. This time around, it better be different. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.